Good morning, Father Merrill Wade. On this February 3rd, 2019, can you tell me, Father Wade, what is the sermon about today?
Today is the occasion where Jesus goes to his hometown of Nazareth and has an encounter with the family, with all the friends in the synagogue, and it's a tremendous moment of surprise. In this, that we learn that God is not predictable.
In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you may be seated. So I'm far from a human development specialist, but I did read something recently. And it was about trying to give an idea of how we start our capacity to think as very, very young children. And the author likened the human mind to a computer operating system. And it says that he suggested that we begin with a recognition or lack of a recognition that we are actually separate and independent. We feel perhaps connected to mother or the adult holding us. We feel like we're just all one thing. And so part of the task associated with developing as young children is to begin to learn that you're independent or separate than the other, to differentiate, right? And so at some point, and we see children and how they behave, right? There's some process at about age 2 or something where they begin to say no, and begin to differentiate themselves in a way that's visible to the parent or caretaker. And this is, of course, essential, the capacity to differentiate. Like, for example, those are cats, that's a dog, that's somebody else's house, that's my house. This kind of formation, mental faculty of formation and development is absolutely crucial for us. The fact of the matter, of course, is at some point in time, that ceases to serve us. Because as we see ourselves as unique and different, which is a crucial aspect of our development, we can also begin to see ourselves as better than. We can also begin to see ourselves as the one that have a righteous place in God's plan. There's all sorts of ways that differentiation doesn't serve ourselves or the world around us. So the issue, I think the ongoing issue that I experienced in my own life is how can I pursue this idea that I'm an independent, I'm a unique individual, and also be completely open and available to not only the uniqueness of somebody else, but also where it's hard, where it's even the hardest, is to find ways to trust people that are different than us. To actually believe in them, though they're different than us. So this dualistic view of being either out or in is, of course, a rampant state of human experience. We know it all too well. And it can make things very difficult for us. I'm strangely attracted to this idea that I'm supposed to grow spiritually. That is really the call, is for us to expand our powers, to be able to love when we don't want to. So this particular story speaks to me pretty powerful. Jesus is in the synagogue, and he has read from the book of the prophet Isaiah, and what Isaiah is talking about is a new day in Israel, that God is doing a new thing. And he reads that in the synagogue, and then he closes with these words, "Today the scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." Today the scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. And the way the text says, all spoke well of him. And I wonder if it didn't sound something like this. Like this. Like this. That's not going to be funny now. Okay, all spoke well of him. Okay. And I think that set Jesus off. Ooh, how wonderful this is. Set him off, because here's the problem. They know this is Joseph's son. They know who Jesus is. They know, they have advanced knowledge, and they're certain about who Jesus is. And Jesus is supposed to be predictable. One of the things about the either-or thinking for us is it's a method for us to be able to predict the other person. They're bad, so they do bad things. Or if I can figure out how somebody thinks, right, and feel like I know them, then I'm not going to be so upset if they surprise me. Many of us cannot resist trying to believe we can figure out somebody else. And we spend all of our energy trying to prove that we know that other person as well as God does. And it always makes a mess of things when we think we know too much. And so when Jesus speaks well and the crowd is moved and they're happy, he realizes they're not listening. They're not listening to me. God is doing a new thing. I am not their Jesus. God is not predictable. God is not a thing we own, friends. Jesus is not our Jesus. Jesus is not even the church's Jesus. Jesus is God's Son and speaks to the whole world. And where he speaks with authority, even in his own hometown. Even in his own hometown, he knows he's not going to be compromised. And he says to them, doubtless you will quote to me this proverb, "Doctor, cure yourself." And you will say, "Do here also in your hometown the things that we have heard you did at Capernaum." And he brings into memory for them the recognition that Elijah and Elisha had done remarkable things outside the hometown, outside the Jewish people, outside Israel itself. That God was never meant to be confined to us, to the we, to be ours. God has always strained and pushed at the barriers we place on God. Has always opened and kicked the lid off the box we place God in. And then he says something very provocative and very painful for the hometown. The truth is, there were many widows in Israel in the time of Elijah. When the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months and there was a severe famine. Yet Elijah was sent to none of the suffering in Israel in that time. Elijah left the hometown. Elijah left the church building. Elijah left the comfort of home. Elijah went where God sent him because God is not predictable. And Jesus is saying to his friends, you can't make me predictable. When the Spirit of God is working in the life of a person, they seek to be comfortable and predictable. There were also many lepers in Israel in the time of the prophet Elijah, and none of them was cleansed except Naaman the Syrian. Elisha left hometown, left the church, left the family, and went to where the Lord called him. Now, when the synagogue heard this, when their illusion about Jesus had been shattered, they reacted the way most of us do when we feel like we've lost control of somebody that we thought we had figured out, that we had put in a box. They were enraged, and they led him to the brow of the hill that they might hurl him off the cliff. And he walked away out of their midst. Jesus is attempting to give new life, a fresh and authentic power to the people that are listening to him, including us. That either or kind of finality thinking gets us nowhere. It keeps us thinking small. And in fact is not a sign of conviction or personal authority, but it represents our inner weakness. And we all deal with the need to have some certainty in our lives, especially when we're struggling in any form or fashion, health or finances or just a sense of being lost. We're looking for some certain sign for the situation we face to be healed. It's totally understandable. We move into that black and white either or kind of binary thinking of that operating system that helped us learn how to differentiate. And then there are times where to be a part of the solution in terms of relationships or in terms of the world we live in, we have to allow ourselves space to be surprised by God. I think if we read the scriptures carefully enough to where we're not trying to have our existing biases about God or about Jesus or about the faith journey, to have our existing biases confirmed, we may get our socks blown off. That's not the metaphor. We may be very surprised at what God can do in our lives. St. Paul was Saul, who was a Pharisaic Jew that thought in absolute either-or thinking about the followers of Jesus. And God surprised him. God woke him up on a journey and invited him to follow Jesus. And Saul was troubled, but his heart was moved. And Saul, as we know, became Paul. And Paul founded congregations based on the love of Jesus Christ. And he moved from place to place, moving hearts and inspiring people to trust in this one who was crucified and resurrected. Paul wrote in his letter to the Corinthians, what we just read, we know of as that beautiful chapter about love, chapter 13 in 1 Corinthians. But I want you to notice the development step in Paul's spiritual formation, where he seeks to just define by differentiation and sought to unite people through a sense of commonality. Spirit. He says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face at that time when Jesus becomes all in all in the fullness of the gift of the kingdom. Then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, an admission that I must learn, that I must continue to grow. Now I know only in part. Then, when God is through with me and with us, what we can see, then we will know more fully, as we've already been known by God. God sees and wants to offer us growth. Now faith, hope, and love abide, he writes, these three, and the greatest of these is love. And love, if nurtured, unites us. Unites us. Whoever's not truly against us is with us. Whoever not is seeking to do us harm may be seeking to do well with us. Our capacity to include widens if love is a gift from God. Love seeks union with others. Love spreads. Love overflows out of an individual for the sake of others. Love quiets fear. Love, the gift of love, the love of God for each of us is enough. So why not for that widow in Zarephath? Why not for the leper outside our boundaries? Why not for the migrant in a caravan? Somebody that is searching for a meal, searching for hope, for a future. Why not? After all, by no greatness of our own, by no specialness of ours, God has reached out to us and included him in his life. This life is a gift to be shared. So we gather in communion in order to be able to be sent beyond the church's walls. People are waiting on good news, and you bear it. And for me, knowing that you bear God's good news